Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. I'm so scared, so I wake up early. Maybe 5 o'clock to 5:40 a.m. My alarm's still not ringing and I decided to do what I do normally. Make breakfast. Then watch TV for a couple of minutes. Then our emergency alert system sounded, then I got scared, my heartbeat go fast. I be like, oh no, I'm gonna die. Then I remembered my phone alarm, it's the emergency alert system. I was freaking scared. End of story. Next story. Wholesome friend, I had just gotten my PS4. My first online gaming console since the 360 days. One of my buddies from work has been playing with me for a while on Dissidia NT. He will go out of his way to compliment me in front of other people IRL and in party chat when he thinks I've had a bad day. Or even when I pulled something off in a game that he thought was cool. Had a terrible day yesterday. And he noticed. When I got on that night. He spoke out in the party chat when we were talking about manga and anime and pointed out that he's seen me reading Life of Pi all the time in the break room. I don't know if this was intentional. But it's the little things that really matter. Just that tiny statement made my whole day and made me feel good that he noticed something like that and thought it was cool, so he shared it with our peeps. Guys, take care of your homies. Sometimes just the littlest things can mean a lot. End of story. Next story. A kid wanted my game context. So 2 years ago I bought a game for 18+, and when I was paying for my game, an M with her ek was staring at me, and the ek saw what game I was getting and he went up to me and dragged my bag back. This kid was around about 6 to 7 years. And said, "Ek, please can you give me that game?" Me, "No sorry kid." So the kid went to his M and told her that he wanted the, and I said no, so the lady went up to me and said, "Excuse me, but can you give my son the game?" Me, "No, and plus he is too young for the game as it's 18+. Well, it doesn't matter, just give the game or I will call the PO. Me, "No, you can't have the game, and the PO probably has better things than getting a person to give a 18+ game to a kid." Well, I'm calling the PO. So she called the PO, but I overheard her saying, "A person stole my belongings." After that I was in shocked and thinking to myself, she is so stupid and she could get arrested for an unnecessary call. The M finished the conversation and we waited there for an hour or two. The PO came to the shop and told us to say a story of what happened, so the M told the PO that I stole something from her. Bear in mind I was laughing inside my head. And the PO said, "Now son, tell me your statement." So I told the PO everything what happened, and she was lying, so the PO wanted to check the security cameras and the M was paralyzed with fear, so after the PO looked, the M kicked me in the balls and ran. After that the PO caught her and she had a 25-year sentence in prison for running from the police and assaulting a civilian from that day forward. I visited her and laughed at her for being so stupid, and that's my story. Hope you read this, Redditor, and I want to say that the stories you read makes me laugh and love you content. Keep it up. End of story. Next story. There are still decent people in the world. A couple of weeks ago, I went out to play pool. It was the first time I'd been out in a month. I was really upset because my boyfriend and I were having problems and I was drinking on top of it. I guess between those two things, I was pretty careless, but in my state of carelessness, I accidentally left my wallet behind when I left the pool hall. I went back and tried to find it, but it was gone and nobody had seen it. It had my license, my social security card, my medical certificate and my mom's ID. I know I shouldn't have had my social in there. I had my mom's ID in there because she passed a few years ago and I wanted to have her wherever I went. I'm devastated that I lost that. My debit card wasn't even used, so it seems like my wallet was just thrown away. It doesn't make sense. Today, out of the blue, someone came to my door and gave me my ID. My physical and my social. I couldn't believe it. They said they found it in their mailbox. I still don't have my wallet with my mom's ID, but it's an absolute miracle that these things were returned to me. I'm so grateful and so confused. I wonder what happened to it. End of story. Next story. My first kiss. At 18 and without a significant progress with girls, unlike literally everyone else I knew, I found an unlikely wingman. More of a wingwoman. She was a new student and a sophomore. I knew her from her sister, who introduced me, since I was known to be a good tour guide and a person to always hang out with. Her name is W for simplicity. I didn't know, but we did make a good team together. We considered each other best friends after a month or so hanging out. And in that process I was her wingman in getting a date for her crush, who I knew. It didn't work out for long, but she appreciated the help. W was the type of friend who was younger than you and made you remember it. Always teasing me for being 18 and never having a girlfriend. I wasn't shy or couldn't talk to girls, I just had a bad habit of making my crush bring out their bad side. So I didn't bother, especially senior year. But that was different when I changed classes and got to sit next to G. Someone I already knew but eventually got to develop a crush on. Word on the street also told me she had a crush on me too. Everyone was raving about it. Well, all my friends anyway. And what would you know, W decided to help me be my wingwoman since I helped her. And for an entire month I literally took her advice in trying to ask her out or trying things to impress her one way or another, oblivious to the fact that she already was waiting to be asked out. I made a fool of myself joining her club and trying to show off, only to dislocate my ankle doing karate. During this process me and W hung out even more frequently than before, trying to come up with a plan to ask G out or get the relationship going. We were a horrible team now that I think about it. But that didn't stop us from taking planning with us to the museum trip that we signed up for. We walked and planned while looking at cool stuff, and only then did I realize that I didn't know how to kiss. Me being me, I was worried that I would break the whole deal if I didn't know how to kiss properly. As we'd finally gotten a plan together for me to ask G to the upcoming Valentine's dance, I was in a moment of stupidity, but W said she'd show me and that it was no biggie as she had no problem with it. We went to the less popular part of the museum and finally I got my first kiss. And that was when it happened. W confessed to me that she'd had a crush on me for the longest time and that the relationship with the guy she'd asked out didn't last because of me. It was a shocker and just showed how dense I was to certain social cues. I was entirely confused and frustrated that I'd let a sophomore do that to me, and my self-esteem broke for a moment, thinking that I was pathetic enough that all I could get was a sophomore to like me. But some part of me felt that the kiss was more meaningful than it seemed. And eventually, after a long discussion, I understood that W was special to me in a new way I didn't understand up until then. We didn't go out or go further for obvious reasons, but I can never forget her face when she finally told me. She was and still is one of the sweetest people I know. Nowadays we aren't friends just because of life, I guess. And yet I will take her back if she wants to. The morale of this short story is that sometimes things don't always go the way you want them to go. But you'll sometimes find that it's better that way. You never know where your happiness lies. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.